Hello everyone, welcome to my Flosstube channel. My name is Jessie Lee and I'm coming at you with video number 43. Once again, I have been missing from Flosstube for way too long. I think it's been close to 3 months this time, and I did not intend for that to happen, but these past couple of months have been very full and kind of tumultuous. We've had lots of wonderful things happening and lots of crappy things happening too. November in particular was a very sad month for my family. If you follow me on Instagram, you know why. But it's all just way too much for me to recap, so I'm just not going to because I would rather talk about cross stitch. But as for this week, I am able to sit down and make this video because I have this entire house to myself for 5 whole days. Tim and the kids took the annual trip to Florida to celebrate Christmas with my in-laws, and I chose to stay behind. Last year, my mother-in-law tagged along when we went camping in the summer, and then we traveled to Nebraska to celebrate Thanksgiving with my family, and then we did Christmas in Florida with my in-laws, and then in the spring, my sister-in-law came here to visit us, and in the midst of all of that visiting, I was getting used to being back in college, which was quite a big life change, so I love my family very much, but I am burnt out. Also, it's just not really practical for me to travel right now. I'm in my toughest semester of school yet. I have online classes which take up a bunch of time, and then I have to go to class in person 15 hours a week to learn all the procedures of how to do a sleep study, like hands-on, and it is so much fun and really cool, and I am so psyched for this to eventually become my career, but right now it's all very overwhelming. And then also our pet sitter, who we trusted and adored, decided to retire and move away, and good for her, but I just can't deal with finding someone to replace her, so I have to stay at home and take care of all our critters myself. So I'm here in the house all by my lonesome, and I am absolutely loving it. Loving it. I dropped my peeps off at the airport and came straight home and scoured the house. Got everything really clean because I get to enjoy it actually staying that way. And I made myself a little meal plan and got a bunch of groceries that I like to eat. And I've just had peace and quiet and uninterrupted time to myself. And it's been so nice. I feel like a brand new person. I've just really been having so much fun. It's fun to putter around the house and take myself to and from school just completely alone. And I've just had this explosion of thoughts and new ideas, and when I'm at school, I'm smiling and chatting and just glowing. I just feel so energized and renewed. It's really nice. I'm kind of grateful that I've gotten this time to myself, and I will be happy when Tim and Glenn and Sylvia all come home, and we will get to celebrate Christmas together here at home, like closer to actual Christmas time. But in the meantime, I can tell that 5 whole days is not going to be really enough time for me to really start feeling like I'm missing them a whole lot. Anyway, even though I've been going through kind of a lot these past couple months, I did manage to get some pretty nice stitching done. I've really been soaking up my time to cross stitch and having a lot of fun with it lately. And I'm really excited to show you what I've been working on. So let me scooch over so I can put up a picture of this first thing. I have to post a picture because I've already given it away. It is these 2 ornaments that I stitched for my in-laws, my mother-in-law Mary and her husband Dave, because I can't be there with them in person for Christmas this year, but I still wanted to contribute a little something special, so I decided to go with something handmade. This past year, Mary and Dave sold their home by the ocean and moved inland, where they bought a ranch. They have a big house on a gorgeous tract of land where their neighbors' cows pass through grazing, and Mary and Dave have a little barn area where they've been raising ducks and chickens. So I had to stitch up these adorable little chicks wearing Santa hats. They're from a pattern called Tiny Chicks Wearing Santa Hats by Selva Design on Etsy. And I stitched them on this 32 count polka dot even weave. I thought it would be fun to experiment with polka dot fabric, and it suited these little baby chicks so well. So those little guys were really, really fun to stitch up real quick. And then my in-laws have two dogs. I've talked about them before. One of them is a Dalmatian, and I got this Dalmatian from a very old vintage Leisure Arts leaflet called Luvable Pets that I acquired from Etsy, and I wish I still had, but it got destroyed. I had to dispose of it. A certain cat in my household barfed all over it. I guess he was angry that I was stitching a dog. The pattern was just of the Dalmatian. I came up with the beanie and scarf myself. My original idea was to stitch a solid red scarf and beanie on green fabric to look Christmassy. And the fabric that I bought from 123 Stitch was 32 count Belfast linen in Herald. And on the website, it looked like it was going to be forest green, but in person, it was actually teal. Very, very blue, straight up teal. So I had to revise my idea to work with that teal color, and I decided to be more colorful with the scarf and make it striped to create more of a color scheme that was interesting. And I also took the colors from the stripes and used those threads to make a little mixed color pom-pom on the beanie, and I'm so happy with how that ornament turned out. I'm grateful that I got an unexpected color of fabric to work with because it forced me to be more creative, and I'm even happier with how this looks. So yeah, that's what I stitched for these ornaments, and then I finished them by mounting the stitching on little circles of foam board that I cut out with a layer of quilt padding in between, and then I finished off the edges with rickrack and polka dot ribbon that I just hand sewed to gather up to make a little ruffle. And then on the back, I found some coordinating fabrics at the fabric store, and I glued pieces onto some cardboard from my recycling. And then I cut out circles with pinking shears to glue onto the back to just finish the ornaments off. So they turned out super cute. They were really fun to make. I love making these types of FFOs. You've seen me make ornaments like this and magnets too in the past. And it's been a long time since I've gotten to make these little circle projects like these. And I hope my in-laws enjoy these ornaments and think they're cute. I've invested the most of my stitchy attention on the Great Cheshire Pumpkin by Tempting Tangles Designs. Here is what the pattern looks like. Pause the video and take it all in because it is just chock full of wonderful little details. And the start that I had on it that I showed you in my last video was just a little bit of the black fence in the foreground. But here's all I've gotten done since then. I finished the entire foreground and all of the haunted house, and it looks great. I have loved every minute of stitching all of this, even that haunted house, which I was really intimidated to dig in on, but it's turned out great. And along the way, I've made all kinds of little changes throughout just to make this my own. I had to deviate a lot from the called for colors of floss just to find shades that would work with this fabric. It is 36 count Edinburgh linen in the colorway Heather by Fiber on a Whim. It's a murky grayish purple color. And I think the biggest color change I made was changing the roof and trim on the house from a shade of blue to purple. And I really like how that turned out and how it draws out the purple in the fabric. I also incorporated a bunch of glow-in-the-dark threads. In my last video, I showed you the little collection of threads that I found online, and they stitch up well and they really glow. I wish so bad that I could figure out a way to photograph it for you guys so you guys could really see how this glows in the dark. It's amazing. I put glow-in-the-dark thread in all the windows of the house and in the jack-o'-lantern's faces and the cat's eyes and the lantern next to the gate. And eventually when I stitch in the moon and the ghosts, they're gonna glow too. It's gonna be so cool. Oh, and another little detail I changed was on the pattern, the sign above the gate says beware, but I changed it to blessed be because when I look at this design, I don't see a scary haunted house. I just see a happy home. And also, witches just get a bad rap that's undeserved. And the witch who lives here is clearly a very nice lady because she has so many friends living with her. She has her ghosties and her jack-o'-lanterns and all of these kitties and even kitty ghosts who decided to remain with her in the afterlife. I mean, oh my goodness, if so many kitties love you so much, clearly you're a good person and probably the type of person who would tell people to be blessed and not to beware. I basically just want to be this lady. I think she's awesome. I just find the design of this pattern to be touching, not just amusing and pretty, you know. So I've just been loving stitching on this, and this is going to be my stopping off point for now because we've moved into winter and Christmas and I'm just not feeling the Halloween and fall stuff anymore. But I will be so excited to pick this up again next year. The trees and the moon and the ghosts are the part of this that I'm the most excited to stitch. So it'll be a happy time when I get there. And then, of course, I've been keeping up with my temperature rain clouds. Here in Maplewood, Minnesota, where I live, we had the most gorgeous autumn I've ever seen since we moved here. We typically get a mini snowstorm in early October that does melt right away and it goes straight back to being fall, but the snow knocks all the leaves off the trees really fast. So everything is just brown and bare most of the fall. But this year, that snow didn't come until the end of October, so the trees had plenty of time to fully change color and hold on to those beautiful leaves as long as possible. It was spectacular. I loved it so much. And the temperatures were pretty enjoyable too. It was mostly in the 50s. So you can see in October, I finally got to stitch my shades of blue. So you can really see my full color gradient, and I think it's really pretty. Oh, and down here you can see I added a little thermometer to show off my color scale. I just got to put in the numbers for the temperature ranges eventually, but this is how my temperature raindrops are looking, and they're just so cute. And I am really pleased that this year that I've decided to stitch a pattern I made up myself has also been a year of absolutely beautiful weather. What's so special about stitching temperature pieces is that they make me really pay attention and savor the weather and nature more than I might have otherwise. I think stitching these is just so cool, and I will do a temperature design every year forevermore, even if I move on from having cross stitch as my main hobby. I just love these, and this one is just turning out really cute. I'm so happy. Hey, sorry about the outfit change, but it's the next day. I was totally losing my voice when I was recording yesterday, and I needed to take a break. Anyways, I have been putting a ton of thought into what I want my temperature cross stitch to be for 2024. So far, I've stitched these 4 designs, and then 2024 will be my 5th and final design to sort of complete my baseline series for my temperature cross stitch collection. And once 2024 is all stitched, I will take the 5 and hang them out in my stairwell over there. And then every year after that, I will stitch a temperature design and then hang it up in the stairwell and gradually create columns. And I'm definitely going to revisit each of these patterns and either stitch them in the same colors and just see how the weather that year makes it look different organically, or I could stitch them in totally different colors, or I will add variety by stitching other temperature patterns that sort of fit the categories that I have established here. Like to go with my temperature garden by Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy, I could stitch Quaker basket sampler or weather vines, which are both designs by Sprouting Lupine. Or for an insect theme, to go with my temperature butterflies, which was also by Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy, I could do the bee-themed temperature sal by Stormie Girl Stitches, or Dragonfly temperature cross stitch by Stitch by Candlelight. For a sky theme, I could do the temperature rainbow or moon phases by Climbing Goat Designs, or cute little tiny temperature rainbows by Flower and Fabric, and I even found temperature spiral by Cross Stitch for You, which has stars in it. There's tons of ideas out there that will totally mesh with my little nature-themed categories I have here. But for 2024, I had to figure out what the 5th category is going to be, and I decided to go with animals. So as I went looking for the perfect animal themed pattern, I really fell in love with Temperature Birds by Kristi of Kristi's Corner Needlework, and also Birds of a Weather by Sprouting Lupine. However, the designs that I've stitched so far are very simple looking. They're repetitive and easy to read at a glance. And these two beautifully detailed patterns just don't quite mesh with that style. I love them and will for sure stitch them some year in the future, but they're just not going to fit in as one of my baseline 5. And then Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy eventually came out with her Temperature Turtles, which are so cute and would fit in perfectly with all her other designs that I've stitched, but they're sea turtles, and I'm from Nebraska, so while I love the ocean, it's just never been such a part of my life that I really like to celebrate it in my crafts and decor. And also, I just felt like turtles are not enough of a basic iconic animal to represent the entire animal category, you know? In fact, great minds think alike. Before Sarah announced her temperature turtles, I had been doodling my own temperature turtles. Here's how far I had gotten on them. You see, my approach was a bit different. All the scoots on the shells have rings, and those would change colors with the temperatures. But as you can see, I just drew these 2 shells because I abandoned the idea after deciding that I didn't want the animal to be a turtle. So I went back to the drawing board and came up with a better idea. Temperature fish. The scales on the fish can be different colors for the daily temperatures. Now, I started out drawing this on graph paper, as I do, and I just made the same shape of a fish, but came up with different scale configurations for 30, 31, and 29 days, since next year is leap year. And then I got out my computer and took my doodles and turned them into this group of temperature fish. So I have a basically completed temperature chart now. And it went so fast, which is so funny to me. It was about 3 days to make this, when my temperature Rainclouds, which are so much simpler, took me about a month to go from initial doodles to a completed chart, which was on a huge spread of graph paper. So I feel like I am just growing by leaps and bounds after discovering charting software. But I am really happy with my temperature fish. I think that they will mesh really well with my other temperature cross stitches, and they're a super basic animal. I mean, in the Bible, God made fish and birds before he made any other animals. So my next big stitchy mission is to pull out all of my threads and come up with the color scheme for these temperature fish. And I'm going to have to figure out what color to use for the fish scale outlines, because that color will need to contrast perfectly for whatever my main color gradient is. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. And then I'm going to have to find fabric and get as much of a head start as I can stitching those scale outlines before January, because that's the one disadvantage of this pattern. There's a lot of stitching to do aside from filling in the daily temperature color. But I still love my temperature fish and I'm going to go for it. And after I get some stitching done on this design and work out any kinks I find, I will probably share it with you guys for free here on this channel like I did with my temperature Rainclouds. And I hope some of you guys would like that, even though this is a way bigger stitching commitment than a lot of other temperature patterns out there. But I'm doing this all just for fun. Well, that's all I have to share with you for today. Thank you again for being so patient with me, being a crappy Flosstuber and barely ever posting videos anymore. Every so often I peek at my subscriber count to see if anybody has decided to leave, but you're always all still here, and it really means a lot to me that you choose to stick around. I really appreciate all of you, and I'm not exactly sure when my next Flosstube video will be, but I promise I will post one before my next Flosstubeversary on Valentine's Day. But until then, God loves you and I love you, and happy stitching. Bye-bye.